Hello whittlers and carvers. It has been some time since my last video, so I am really sorry about that. Life's just gotten really busy over the last sort of year, so I am sorry. But once again, thanks for joining me here at the joy of carving. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can carve these little fish. The fish themselves are relatively straightforward to carve, so if you're a complete novice, this is a really good project for you to work on. But if you're a more adept intermediate carver, you can really progress with this carving by carving the patterns, and I'm going to show you how I've carved one of these patterns. But you can get really creative and carve all kinds of different designs, anything that you can think of. But without further ado, grab yourself a cup of tea or a coffee, and let's begin the joy of carving. So if you've ordered the kit from my website, this is basically what you'll receive, the blank 4 fish already cut out. If you don't have the kit, then you can pop over to my website and you can actually download the designs, the patterns for these fish. You can download those, print them out, and transfer them onto a piece of wood ready for you to cut out. So we'll begin just by rounding all of the edges, and it's basically like sharpening a pencil at this point. I'm slowly rotating the fish, carving each angle and just rounding it all into a point. And you'll repeat this process on the tail end of the fish as well. The only tricky thing with the tail is you'll be carving down the back end of the fish, and then when you get to the actual tail itself, like I am here, you need to stop because you can't carve up the tail because it goes up. As I always say, we can't carve up a hill because it's just going to rip and tear that wood grain. So you need to keep reversing and changing that grip. So you're essentially carving a V shape. One of the things that I like to do as I go, and this isn't essential, but I like to just sketch where I'm carving on the actual piece of wood just to give me an idea. And what I've done here is I've drawn the diamond shape where the tail meets the fins, and then I've used the edge of the blade to just score a line in, and then I'm carving into that line. So I've created a channel that I can carve into, a stop cut, and I'm repeating the process there with the fins. But the key really is to not make the fins too thin at this point because you're handling the carving so much. If those fins are too thin, you can risk snapping them off. Really, it's just a case of we're making space for the body to be able to carve the body. You can see there the fins are relatively thin, they've got some shape, but it's just enough for me to continue rounding the shape of the fish itself. And be mindful of the direction of the grain because we're carving a sort of curved cylindrical shape here. You may need to change the direction in which you're carving. So you're probably wondering as well why there's so much extra material after the fin. And that's purely so that you have more to hold on to as you carve. The more material that you can give yourself with these smaller wood carvings, the more you have to hold basically as you're whittling. And I'm going to save some of these little chips that I've carved off later on because those are going to form the fins of the fish. You can of course just saw this extra material away if you didn't want to carve it. So here I'm just penciling out where I want the fins to end, and the only thing that we really need to consider here is that we're actually carving the end grain of the wood. The easiest way to explain the end grain of wood is to imagine that you're holding a bunch of straws together and you brush your hand over the top of the straws. As you get to the last few straws, they'll want to pull away and sort of pull away from the bundle. That's the easiest way to think of the end grain, and the way we combat that is to just have a really sharp tool and to just take away really thin slices at a time. So just keep whittling away at that tail until it's the thickness that you want. And as you go, just keep putting in the line of that diamond shape. So use the edge of the tool to gently score the line in so you can create your channel to then carve into. But again, keep in mind that you still don't want it too thin at this point because we still have the rest of the fish to carve. So don't carve it too thin yet. So now we're going to pencil in the pattern that we want. Again, you can choose any kind of design that you want. I'm going for a sort of crisscross pattern that's going to run all the way around the fish. So I'm just penciling in the lines before I score them in. And once you're happy with the design, you can then use the edge of the blade to just really gently score in a line, like we did with the fins and the tail. Just gently press in the lines. I would recommend put the fish down flat on the work table when you do this. For the purposes of the video, the angle that I'm filming at, I've had to sort of hold it so that you can see how I'm doing it. But normally if I was doing a technique like this, it would be flat on the worktop. But just for the purposes of you being able to see what I'm doing, I'm having to hold it at a bit of an awkward angle here. But it's a really simple technique. We're just using the edge of the tool to gently score in that line, and then we're carving into the line at an angle to just create a recess. But regardless of the design or pattern that you've chosen, the technique will remain exactly the same. But now that the pattern is done, the fish is essentially carved. But the final thing that I'm going to do is just take those fins down to the thickness that I want. So I'm just going to thin them out a little bit more, making sure that I'm carving with the grain there and just chipping away so that they're the right kind of thinness. You want to save this till last. Again, as I said earlier, if you do this too early, you're just going to run the risk of snapping off those fins. And now we can take all of those little pieces of offcuts that we had earlier from the extra piece of wood at the end of the tail, and I'm just selecting a few random pieces and cutting those to size to create the fins. To be honest, these pieces are so thin you could just cut them with scissors if you wanted to, but a couple of the pieces were just the absolute perfect shape of the fins, so I didn't even need to do anything. And now all we need to do is glue those in place. And here's the finished fish. I really love the pattern on this one. It's so simple, but it looks complicated. It takes a little while to do, but it does pay off in the end. And the other fish you'll carve in exactly the same way, using the exact same techniques. You can get really creative on the designs and the patterns, whatever you choose to do. And here's the finished carving. You can see I've chosen a couple of different designs for the patterns. I've chosen one where it's just plain, another where it's going horizontally, another where it's going vertically across, and then I've glued all of the fish onto just a slice of wood. And you can get quite imaginative on how you want to display this as well. You don't have to glue them to an offcut of wood like I have. You can put some magnets on the back and have them as fridge magnets. You can have them as some sort of hanging mobile as well. These were so much fun to carve. I'm actually thinking of carving 100 or so of these and just mounting them on a huge picture frame. But I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really trying to put an effort into doing a video every week going forward. This is something that I really want to do full time, so your support is really, really appreciated. So thank you once again for joining me here at The Joy of Carving, and happy carvings, everyone.